All right, so welcome everyone. I hope you guys are having a great week. And You are probably very busy as the rest of us are. Just in case you've forgotten my name is Juan Manuel Molina, and I'm the one in charge of our last session for this first series of webinars that we are having for this very special athlete cohort. And now today, you will see that there are some advisors in the audience also, and also there are the group that we have also today with us. So the topic for today we're going to be talking about a very important topic for us is how to pay for school. And it's a really something that we have been touching in the past sessions. We have talked a little bit about that, but today we want to focus a little bit more on that. And it might be a tricky subject because there's many different things that we need to understand. So let's get started with the session today. All right. So the first thing that we need to understand, and I think this is something that is sometimes tricky or challenging to understand, is that especially when people think on 100% scholarships. And in some websites, you will see that some institutions will say, we will give you 100% of the scholarship. But we need to understand that certain concepts, certain definitions that will make everything a little bit more clear. So the first thing that I want you to understand is that very similar to if you want to go and study somewhere else that is not your hometown, there's many expenses that you need to take into consideration. And the way that US universities make that calculation is that they make the calculation of everything that you are going to spend in 1 year. That's how they are going to be doing the calculations for how much money do you need. All the things, again, I'm going to say that again, all the things that you're going to spend for 1 year, right? So that's what they call the full cost of attendance. So whenever you're looking at US universities, you need to find what is the full cost of attendance, because this is going to be the amount of money that the university is going to need to see from you, either from scholarships or from your own money. So I have some examples for you here in this very first slide. And I wanted to walk you through some of those concepts of where your money, when universities say this is the full cost of attendance, this is what they are including in that with that concept. First of all, you need to understand that there's one concept that is called tuition. The tuition money, it's the money that you pay for the school for the actual classes, right? So the actual classes. The word that we use in Spanish will be like your colegiatura or matricula, right? So it's the money that you pay to the school for the classes. And that money each year is increasing. So I have some examples right here of different kinds of school and the approximate of their expenses. So universities that are private, similar to, and we put here Harvard University, but there's many other private institutions that are this kind of price range or even more expensive or cheaper. But this is, remember, the average. The average means that half is higher than this and half is lower than this. So somewhere around $50,000. We're talking about just money for the classes. Public universities will be around 30, 36, 30 something $1,000, and community colleges will be, as you can see, a big difference in the range of dollars that they will charge for their classes. So that's the range of just tuition, right? Just tuition. So that's the money that you pay for the actual classes. Now, another thing that you need to consider when you want to study abroad and somewhere else, that's that you need a place to live. Now, this is not included in the tuition. It's something else. You need to also be thinking about where are you going to be living and the food that you're going to eat for all those 9 to 10 months that you're going to be in the school. And if you stay over the summer, so it's also, this has to do with the cost of living. So many different places will have different cost of living because it's different to live, for example, in Massachusetts, right, and Harvard University than to live in Arizona or to live in San Antonio, uh, because there's cities with different um, costs of living. So you need to understand that housing and what is called room and board, which is your housing and your food, that will depending on the city, the place where the university is. Now, you will also going to need to buy books. You know, every single class you will take, you're going to have to buy a different book. So materials, things that you need for school, those are included in the calculations that the university needs to give you to say, this is how much it costs to come and study here. Also, they need to include in their calculations that maybe you are going to travel back home maybe once a year. Right? You're going to travel back to your house in Mexico, in Merida, wherever you live, and that's an approximation of $1,000. So you can see that that is the same all across the board. And then you have personal expenses. You're going to be buying personal items for you, and as you the regular things that you need to go about your life, and that is also the same all across the board. So it's just a calculation, but it's money that the university will have to see that you have to pay for school. Now, that money can come from different sources. Sometimes this money comes from the same university when they give you scholarships, when they give you tuition waivers and all that. But it's really important that you see where is the money going. And then you will see at the bottom that there's the total cost. So for Harvard University, it will be $76,000. For University of Arizona, will be $56,000, and for San Antonio Community College will be $23,000. So this is very important that we understand. So when you see many times, when you see that certain schools tell you, we give you 100% scholarship, you need to see the fine print, because many times that includes only the tuition. They can give you a discount in tuition because that's what most of the time is paid directly to the school. But many times universities are not going to provide for all the other expenses that have to do with your housing, your books, when you want to travel back home, your personal expenses, all those things are on you, right? There are certain schools that will offer, or that will have very few scholarships that are called full ride scholarships. Now, full ride scholarships are very rare, but they exist. And Fulbright scholarships are scholarships that not only offer you tuition money, but they also will provide you with a place to live, housing, and meals. And they also will give you a certain kind of stipend, money that sometimes they give you every week, every 2 weeks, every month, sorry, to pay for your travel, your books, and your personal expenses and things like that. So those are called full ride scholarships, right? So there's a big range of scholarships and money that it can be given to you. Now let's go a little bit back. We have already learned about this, but I just want to give you a quick refresher of, first of all, of the NCAA divisions, right? Just remember, we have for the NCAA, for sports, we have 3 kinds of divisions here for this sports organizations. Remember, we also have the NAIA, but let's go with this one. And it's important because when we talk about money, it is really important to understand this different kinds of divisions. So remember, Division 1, we've learned that those are someone that tells me, I know you guys are there, so please just a quick reminder, what are some qualities or things that you've learned about Division I schools? Tell me. What do you remember about Division I schools? What are some of the characteristics? What kind of schools those are? Tell me. Oh, man, I think Yandi and Jenny and Elizabeth, who has been repeating all this information all over, might be feeling, maybe did they understand what those divisions were? Should I call on your names? Chancy, what can you tell us about Division I schools?
They're harder to get into.
Okay, that's a true statement. Right. So thank you, Shenzi. Division I schools, one of the things that we think of Division I schools are big schools, right? Bigger schools. And these are the kind of schools that have the big stadiums, and you can think of your Ohio State University, Penn State University, Iowa State. Usually is this schools that also have the state name next to it because they're super big schools. I can think of, for example, Penn State University that has a stadium that is a lot bigger than many NFL stadiums. So those are the Division I schools, and those are a third of the total of the schools, right? Now, something that you can see here that the median undergraduate enrollment is more than 8,000 students, but there's schools that have a lot more than that. And here, one of the statistics that you want to see is that 1 in every 23 students are athletes in these schools. So it's a much more reduced number. When we think about Division II schools, we can think of those also the 28%. That's the smaller group of the schools in the NCAA, and it's usually smaller universities, but they're also a big size universities. But 1 in every 9 students is an athlete. So you can see that the ratio is a lot bigger than in Division I, and in Division III, it's 40%, so it's the most of schools. Not the most, but 40% is the bigger group, but it's going to be smaller schools. But you can see that 1 in every 6 students is an athlete in these schools. Now, with what Shenzi say, I think it's correct, but only at a certain point, because it's not that they're difficult to get in to the school. What we have told you is that it's difficult to actually get a spot to play at Division I schools, right? It might not really be the hardest place to get in into the school, into the program, but as a student athlete looking to play and looking for a scholarship, that's when things get tricky and different. Now let's continue with this. Again, the first row, the orange, is Division I, Division II, and Division III. Now look at this, is that the average numbers of teams per school. And you can see that in Division I and Division III, they have the same amount of teams playing. But that's why, but same amount of teams, but a lot difference, and a lot very different in terms of number of students, right? Percentage of NCAA student athletes in each division, right? And then what I want to highlight a little bit more today is that the last part, athletic scholarships, and that's where we're going to be focusing on today. Now you can see that for Division I, it says that Division I can offer multi-year cost of attendance. See, we're learning, we're learning that. We just learned what the full cost of attendance means, right? So they could offer cost of attendance, athletic scholarships available. And then according to this, 57% of their athletes receive some kind of athletic aid. Doesn't mean that all of them receive full cost of attendance. It says that 57% receive some money. Now for Division II, there's partial scholarships. They have that model, the partial scholarships, but 60% of athletes receive some kind of aid. And then for Division III, I find this really interesting. Division III, there's no athletic scholarships. There's no athletic scholarships. But I really look at this interesting fact. 80% of their athletes receive some kind of scholarship. And which is really something that it really boggles your mind that for Division III schools, they don't have athletic scholarships, but 80% of their athletes have some kind of scholarship. Not really athletic, but some kind of scholarship, which is really interesting, right? Now, how did they do this? And that's why we're going to be understanding this today. Now, receiving an athletic scholarship, we're understanding that there's full scholarships, which means that, again, we said there's tuition and fees, it includes room and board, it includes books, and includes all of the things that I already said earlier, right? Those exist, yes, those exist. Now there's also, like we said, partial scholarships, which most of the time is going to be tuition and fees, but partial scholarships also can be allocated wherever you need them. Most of the time it's going to be going towards tuition, reducing the cost of the classes. But one of the things is that it could be put in wherever you need that money into. And another thing that is important to see is that athletic scholarships are 1 year renewable. Each year it's going to be renewed. It doesn't mean that you're going to have the four years the scholarship, but each year they're going to be seeing if you are setting the goals or if you're meeting the standards for that scholarship. Many times it has to do with your academics, but many times it also has to do with your performance as an athlete. So if you stop playing, then you're going to lose that scholarship. They cannot they cannot tell you that you will have the scholarship for the 4 years that your bachelor's will be. It's not guaranteed. That's the word that I was looking for. Now, our goal as Education USA advisors is to give you the information, the full information, whatever the information is, because we want you to have the knowledge, the information, and the tools to know what we need to do as a team. Now, I'm going to show you here this video because that's the hard reality of athletic scholarships, right? I'm going to play this video. Let me know if you can hear it well. You should hear it well.
A whole lot. So I see a whole lot of families.
Can you hear okay?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So I see a whole lot of families who are hoping to pay for college with an athletic scholarship. Being recruited to play college athletics is actually a whole process that often starts as early as the 9th or 10th grade and requires many steps and a lot of research. And one thing to know that I think a lot of families miss is that only NCAA Division I and II schools give any athletic scholarships at all. Division III schools are actually prohibited from giving out any athletic scholarships. So it really depends on whether you as a student or your parents feel that you are able to play at the very highest elite levels of college sports that are represented by Division I and Division II schools. The other thing to know is that every year there are about 7.7 million athletes across the country who are competing for only 138,000 athletic scholarships. So very, very few students actually ever receive an athletic scholarship at all, regardless of how good an athlete they are in their sport. And the other thing to know is that if you exclude men's football and men's basketball, the average athletic scholarship is only about $8,700 a year, which is far, far below the average cost of attendance at pretty much any four-year college or university.
All right, so those are some hard numbers. What numbers do you remember from the video? So I think I heard 7 million student athletes. I heard 100,000 scholarships, right? And the other amount I heard over there is like 8,700, which is $8,000, the average of the athletic scholarship, which, as the lady in the video says, it's far from what studying in the United States costs. And now, stay with me. I'm not trying to paint you a really bad picture with this session. It's like the idea is that we understand what are we getting into, and that we understand what decisions and what strategies are we going to use to get that money that we're looking for, because we want to study in the United States and we're looking for scholarships. We want scholarships. But it's important that we understand that how these scholarships work and what are the odds for me to get it and what do I need to do in order to get it. Hold on.
So I see a whole lot.
We're not going to see that again. Now, I want to give you a little bit more statistics on this, the topic of scholarships. And here, I'm going to show you, because I know that most of us here are soccer players, and I know that we have also from other sports, but I'm going to show you, and I'm going to give you the link to this website where I took the information from, but I want you to see this, the statistics for this. Now you see that in the first column, you're going to see the division, the kind of division. And I love it because you can see here NCAA Division 1, 2, 3, NAIA, NJCAA, CCCAA, and then others. And you will see there's some important numbers here. You can see the second column, you can see the number of schools in each division. Now you can see also the total number of teams for men's soccer teams and then for women's soccer teams. You can see it there. Now you can see then the next one, you will see the number of athletes on each of each sport, right? Now you'll see some different numbers, and then one of those on those different even men or women's, and then you will see the average roster, right? The amount of the members that make those teams, right? So you will see that for NCAA is 32, 31. For Division 2, Division 3, you can see there the number of students. Now, the next column, scholarship limit. The next column is, this is really interesting. It's the amount of full ride scholarships that those teams are allowed to give. Okay. That's the amount. So for example, and I want you to understand this. So for example, if a school, if the total cost of attendance of a school is, for example, $50,000, a school for Division 1 ACAA, it's able to give almost 9.9 10 scholarships, full ride scholarships for that team. But think about this. Remember that the average roster for a team is 32. and they can only give 9.9 scholarships. So here, the thing is that coaches need to decide, and maybe they're going to give, they can give 10 students almost full scholarships, and then leave the other 22 with no help at all, financial help. And in the case of women, there's a little bit more. They can give 14 scholarships, but remember that the average roster is 32, which means that more than half of the team is not going to have any support. Now, what they can do is that they can split, right? And for example, instead of giving 14 100% full cost of attendance scholarships, they might want to give then 50% full cost of attendance scholarships. And then instead of 14 students, these teams can help 28 of their students, right? So you can start thinking that this is not just a matter of the money. There's regulations, there's rules. So you can see right here in the last column, this is the average scholarship that a team member receives in this for athletics. Remember, athletic scholarships. We're not talking about any other kind of scholarship, for athletic scholarships. So in women's sports, it's 80,000, not 80, $18,000. For men's, it's $17,000. For NCAA in Division II, it's $6,000, $8,000 for women. Remember that Division III, there's no athletic scholarships. And then you can see it for NAIA, there's $7,000 each, and for each one of the teams. And then NJCAA, there's also amounts of money. So it's important that you understand that there's many things that are happening when we're thinking about scholarships and allocations of those kinds of money. Now, let's do the math then, right? So as I was telling you, so women's soccer has 14 scholarship limit. So the soccer is an equivalency sport, which means that they can give partial scholarships, and then as long as they are combined, so the total will not exceed the 14 spots. So like I said, for example, in NCAA division, schools can award 28 female soccer players each half of a scholarship, as long as they don't exceed the 14 scholarships per team. Right. In case of for men's soccer teams, for example, then the average roster is 32. So 32 players. So they can only give a maximum of 9.9 athletic scholarships per team. So it seems like each member of the team will receive about 30% of a typical athlete's annual college cost of attendance. So full rides are rare, really, really rare in soccer, for example. Each sport is different, like as you saw in the video. Football is different, and then baseball might be different, but then it's important that we understand that that's the reality. And that's how, because they have limits, they cannot just give money to everyone. There's limits on how much money they can give for sports. Right? So all varsity sports have different numbers. Some athletes will receive full awards. Some athletes will receive partial awards. Some athletes receive none of their sports, none money for the sports. Additionally, depending on the school, maybe the school, that's the limit, but maybe it doesn't mean that they have the 9.9 or the 14 scholarships. Maybe they could have the 14, but the school doesn't have enough money and they only have 5, for example. And they will going to divide those 5 scholarships among the 32, 31 students. So really, there's many different things that are in place that are not really in your hands as a student. There's funding for the school. There is school priorities. It's just all these different things that are at play when looking at athletic scholarships. Now, this is the resource that I was telling you. That don't worry, this will be in the Google Classroom. But I just want you to look at this. The scholarship status is important that you know. Now, let's look at, for example, volleyball. Right? because we already showed the other one. So you can see statistics on this, number of schools that play. And there's information about men's team, women's team, how many scholarships there are, and then what's the amount of money that I receive. And there's really interesting information in all of this, right? So this will be also let me go back and put this on in case you want to start exploring. I'm gonna put it on the chat. Just hold on. But that's somewhere that you can start finding and learning about your sport and knowing more statistics and understanding what is the reality of your sport and scholarships. Let me go back again and make it full. There we go. All right. So let's understand a little bit more about then how do students get athletic scholarships, right? How can I get that way? As you have been learning for this 9 sessions, you need to be recruited for an athletic scholarships, right? And an athlete must be very, very competitive, as I know that you guys are. Now, receiving a full athletic scholarship is reserved for the truly elite athletes, and typically competing at the state level or higher level, many times national level. Now, 2 things will happen during the recruitment process. There's 2 things, possibly. 1, if you're very lucky, students will be contacted by interested coaches, many times as early as 9th grade or even earlier than that. Now, this is easier for students that play in the US and have a lot of content, they play a lot there, but for most of us, it's hard to get that visibility, right? Now, the other thing that can happen, and if you are not contacted by interested coaches, is that students will need to start that contact with coaches, right? You need to make yourself shown, as we have been saying all these sessions. You can reach out directly to the university and the coach that you want to play for, and you want to keep, as all of the sessions have been talking about, keeping a track spreadsheet of what information, how you're contacting coaches, who have you sent emails to, what kind of emails are you sending? You're sending the links to your profile, you're sending the links to your athletic CV, you're sending the link to your social media for athletes. You're doing all that, right? And then when you do that, then we're hoping that you will get visibility and coaches will see you, right? So students need to ask coaches also, what are the offerings? What kind of scholarships they have? What are the ranges? Because it will change really dramatically from one school to the other. Now, students who are not being actively recruited need to promote ourselves. We need to do that to get on the coach's radar, right? Remember that we've been talking about that during all the sessions. Now, what you need to do is that you need to research athletic teams using the university website, right? We've talked about this. We'll just walking through this again, right? You need to complete a university recruitment questionnaire. Remember that last session, Isaac from Incarnate Word told us that there's in many websites for schools, there's a part where you can leave your information and fill out a format, a form where you can upload your information for the coaches to see, right? So complete a university recruiting questionnaire, right? Get the coach's name, their email, their phone, their contact information, right? Keep a spreadsheet of what program. But here you are going to become an expert at information management, right? Because you need to keep track of this. Remember that on the very first session, we said you as a student are the leader of this process. We're going to support you. We're going to give you information. We're going to give you sessions like this, but you are the one that needs to have all this information organized and well done for yourself. We already talked about this. Create an online athletic resume, post game tapes and highlight videos on YouTube and have it all organized. When emailed in, the coaches share the game tape, athletic resume, profile, and all that. And when possible, attend showcases, tournaments, sport camps, and all the things that you can do when possible. And I know that, so this is a strategy. You need to be creating your own strategy. And it doesn't matter if you're in 9th grade and 10th grade, 11th grade, or you're doing your process right now, there is work that you need to be doing, getting ready for this, right? So some things that you need to keep in mind. First of all, remember that coaches are recruiting years in advance. So now they're not really recruiting for the next year, for what players are they going to be needing for next fall. No, they already have those. They're thinking that in 2 or 3 years, their main kicker is going to graduate, and they need already to be looking at new kickers, for example, or the whatever position that you play. They're thinking, okay, so this student is going to graduate in 2 years. The other student is going to graduate in 3 years. The other one is graduating next year. So I'm looking into not leaving my team weak. So they want to identify the right players for the coming years. So when a coach is thinking about their team, they're thinking about 3-4 years in advance. So that's one thing that you need to think about, is like many times you really might like a university. You really might fall in love with a team or something, but many times maybe they don't need you because they already have too many players with with your same abilities. And it's not that you're a bad player. It's not that they don't that you don't have the academics, right? Sometimes it's because that school specifically, they don't need someone like you. So it's really, it's something that we need to understand, that many times this process, we could do our best job. We could have the perfect highlights. We could have the perfect everything. But at the end, it's about the university's needs. So we need to be smart and have a really strong strategy to have a wide variety of universities where we are going to be a good fit academically, where we're going to be a good fit in the athletics, and we're going to be a good fit in terms of our financial situation. So coaches, the next thing, coaches plan based on how much scholarship money they will have. According to the roster, for example, they say, okay, we're going next year, we're going to have a student that is graduating that used to have a Fulbright scholarship. So for next year, instead of having one Fulbright scholarship, let's give that 30% to 3 different students, right? So they're taking decisions according to what players are graduating, what players they have, and what are they interested in receiving in their teams. They identify the amount of money they will have based on the scholarships, maximum, remember those maximums per school. Sometimes they have less money, sometimes they have nothing. So many times they will not maybe ask a athlete, give an offer to the athlete, because they know that that athlete needs a lot of money. So they will say, I cannot offer you a spot because I know that you need 70% of scholarship and I can only offer you 20. So instead of offering it to you, I'm going to offer it to someone that fits better the match, the financial, it's a better financial match for us, right? So they need to identify what they can offer also to you. And if that offer meets your needs also. So it is important to create relationships, to ask questions, to have good relationship with coaches, with recruiters, with other students, because it's all about creating relationships. Putting yourself out there, showing what your skills are, but understanding that there's many things that are not in your hands, that are not in our hands. So we need to be, and the word here is going to be, you need to be really strategic. It's hard to get those scholarships. And as I'm giving you the numbers and as I'm giving you all the information, what I want you to understand is that there's a lot of thought that needs to be given to this process. We have seen, and as in this part of the year, we are receiving the acceptances from schools from all of our students. And part of the group for the Mexico United, we know that, for example, Carola and Amelia, they're getting ready to travel, for example. And then for the rest of the Opportunity Fund students, we know of the students that are getting ready to travel because they were strategic on how they wanted to do this process. And then understanding that they need to look at different options. Now, what does it mean to be then strategic in this process? I'm going to give you a few very, very important suggestions. The first suggestion, and I think, from my opinion, this is the most important part of this process, will be your university list. And that's one of the things that we don't pay attention to that most, because we say, oh, there's more than 4,500 universities in the United States. Yes, but you need to create a well-balanced list. Look for institutions that will fit your unique academic, financial, and athletic profile. Spend time. Get into the university website. Spend and you will spend 2, 3, 5, 10 hours in just one university, looking at the programs that they have. Where are they set? What classes do they have? What is the numbers that they have on their teams? What is the cost of attendance? What is it? Just all that information. You will work with your advisor on creating a well-balanced list with all the information that you need. Remember that the end goal of this process that you get a college degree, right? So it's a university that you're looking for. Of course, looking at academics, looking at the team, looking at the sport, right? Looking at how much it costs. But it's about spending hours and hours researching the right schools for you. And believe us, it will pay out. Many times we say, look for 20 universities. Actually, some of our advisors, I was having a meeting with one of our student that she's in her first year in Princeton. She did 40 universities for her first list. She was interested in all this 40. Then we'll reduce it to 30. Then we'll reduce it to 20. And then we ended up with 10 universities. But it's a work of researching, and then do some more research. Now, many of the sessions that we had during this time had to do with getting to know yourself academically, emotionally, as an athlete, knowing what are your strengths, what are your identities, what make you strong. Knowing what you have to offer is going to also make you stronger. That's why we send you to look. That's what we send you to do those identity maps. That's what we send you to do those strengths and weaknesses tests. That's what we, Elizabeth, send you to do an organized plan. So when are you going to be doing that? You're going to be studying for tests. You're going to be doing all these things because we want you to know yourself and all these different aspects of you. Who are you academically with tests and with your school grades and all that? Who are you emotionally, right? And who are you as an athlete? Use all the tools that we're giving you during this time, these 9 sessions that we've organized for you. Be flexible with your school, with your list of schools. That will mean that maybe you had a dream school, but it's not a good fit for you. Maybe it will mean that putting schools that you were not considering before. So be flexible. Remember that what's the end goal, right, of the process that you're doing is that you want to end up with a college degree, and we're hoping to help you to get some sort of scholarship. Have a rich, and I say it again, have a well-balanced list. There are many things outside your control, like I was saying, and how schools put this money and how they have institutional priorities. Coaches have priorities, funding from different students, right? But from some sports, from other sports, maybe the year that you're deciding that you want to play at a certain school, they're going to defund that sport because they're going to pay attention to another sport, right? So what are the players graduating? What are other students applying for the same school? So there's many things that are not in your control. So what you want to have the best, a wide range of options, because there's many things that are in not your control. Maybe if you're a student with very specific abilities, but maybe another 2 or 3 students with your same abilities are going to apply for the same school. Only one person is going to get it, but maybe if you look at another university where none of the students with your abilities are applying, that in the other school you're going to get in and the funding that you're looking for. So that's what we keep saying: be strategic, have a well-balanced list, because there's many things that are not going to be completely in your control. So again, have a rich and well-balanced list. Now, the other thing that I want to tell you is that you should also be planning to be recruited not only in your athletic performance, but also on your academic performance. And I'm going to show you this video to show you what I mean.
Yeah, in sports where it's equivalency scholarships, meaning that they can break it up into percentages and offer you that and then add to merit scholarships. Swimming is one of those equivalency sports. You can do both. You can have both an academic scholarship and part of a swimming scholarship. That was actually a tactic of mine as a recruiting coordinator at the Division I level for swimming and diving, was to identify and evaluate the athletes that were doing well in the classroom. Primarily because sometimes I was at a Division I program where we weren't fully funded, meaning we didn't have the maximum number of scholarships allowed to us by the NCAA. Now, we were still in competition with other Division I schools that were fully funded. They might have had twice the number of swimming scholarships that I had to give out. So part of me as a tactic in recruitment was to find the kids that did well in the classroom, had good grades, good test scores. Then I could actually go to our admissions department, to the financial aid department, and say, hey, we're very interested in this student athlete. Can you do somewhat of a pre-read on this athlete and tell me what kind of merit scholarship they may be looking at for having these good grades and good test scores? So, out of the tens of thousands of athletes that I could be recruiting through NCSA's network, I could set bottom line parameters for ACT, SAT score, and GPA, right? So I'm actively out here looking for athletes that not only can compete for me, are going to help me build a championship, roster team for a conference or NCAA qualifiers. I'm looking for those kids that are going to earn some merit money to be able to add to potentially some swimming scholarship as well. So yes, absolutely. I mean, as you have those conversations with the coach, say, hey, I'm trying to figure out my finances for next year. Will I be eligible for any scholarship? That coach can either tease out for you the merit side of scholarship, how you're going to do academically, but also with the swimming side of scholarship, and then add those things together. Right. So Kyle, we know that your best route to getting some money to go play sports in college is through good grades and good test scores. Swimming absolutely falls in that category, and finding athletes with good grades and good test scores is a primary, it's a tactic for college coaches.
Yeah, absolutely. The scholarships, they're fungible, and that they can be used towards anything. Essentially, schools, they're going to bundle everything of what you owe: tuition, books, housing, you name it, food plans. They're going to bundle that all together, and you say you have this much scholarship money toward that, which is fungible and that can be used towards any piece of it. You'll have this much left over is what you have to pay. In my instance, I had full ride scholarship to play baseball at the University of New Mexico. Probably at least half or more of that was academic scholarship money that was used toward all those same funds. So that's usually what people will do, what universities will do. The coaches will talk through that with you. The admissions department, they'll talk through that with you. And essentially, they'll say, this is what you have left over that you have to pay. It's not necessarily going to be specifically for tuition or housing. It may be, but it's going to be kind of fungible, that it applies to whatever's left over for what your scholarship doesn't cover. But yeah, academics, keep your grades up and get noticed as a recruit. And coaches will love you because they're going to be able to use academic scholarship money toward you coming to that school to play that sport. They can do that, whereas they don't have unlimited athletic scholarship money to give out to a student athlete. So be a good student athlete, be a good student, get noticed, and they'll be able to help you out on all those fronts. That's the best way of going about it for sure.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching.
That's cool, right? So I really like that, because remember that in the first, one of the first slides I said, it's interesting how for NCAA Division III, they don't have athletic scholarships, but they are the ones that actually give the most scholarships to. Remember that, was it something about 70 or 80% of their athletes actually have scholarships? It's because of this. It's because of what is being said in this video, is that because if you're a good student, chances are that you're going to have some sort of scholarship, because they will be interested in you. If you're a good student and you're a good athlete, then you will get the help that you need. And as the second coach was saying right there, is really interesting to say. He said, I have a lot of many students on full ride scholarships, but they're not athletic scholarships. They are academic scholarships that if we're interested in the student, we're going to make it happen. So that's also part of what Isaac was saying. And then the other also representatives that we're having is like, yes, but if it's there's scholarship for student for athletes, but if you remember that most important, you are going to be an athlete and you have good grades and you are really good at what you do academically, and also you're a good athlete, chances are you're going to find a good spot. Now, it depends on how you do your strategy and the schools that you're going to be applying to. So do not only rely on your athletic talent. Remember that you're going to be a student first, and that is what is going to actually many times give you the most scholarships. Well, all right, some last pieces of advice, and then after this, I'm gonna leave the floor open for questions. So remember, coaches will be watching you. Give them good content to watch, remember. Now, coaches and universities will check your social media for not only, and remember this, not only for evidence of your sports ability, but also good character evidence. Remember that they want to make you part of their team. So they're going to ask questions at what they see and say, if this person is going to be a good mate, a good sports mate with other students, what are the leadership skills, and the things that we do and share and post on social media are going to be a good information for them on what is our character. Be a star at record keeping. Like I said, you're going to become a master at the end of this. So write everything, have spreadsheets, have all those things ready. Sorry, my dogs love to be in the presentations with me. So yeah, you're gonna become a master at record keeping. Write everything down. Have spreadsheets over spreadsheets over spreadsheets on organizing the information. Always keep in mind the reality of funding. Whenever you're thinking about considering schools, remember that, right? Remember getting to know yourself, your academic profile, how weak or strong are you, not only in your sport, but also in your, and not only your sport, but also in your academics. It's going to help you. Again, like we said, do not rely on your athletic talent. Be open to all kinds of schools. Create a plan for admission with your advisor, and here is where I'm going to continue and do a segue to this. And then the most important at the end, also be honest about your athletic talent and see what are the best schools for you, right? What are the best schools? You guys are all talented. That's why you're here, and are good at school. That's why you're here. But your work is going to be with your advisors to look at what are the best schools for you. Just remember, I'm going to leave this links also in the PowerPoint so you can see it in the Google Classroom with links that are going to be, these are going to be your Bible. These are going to be the things that you need. And if you had not read the NCAA Guide for the College-Bound Student Athlete for this year, read it, eat it up, memorize it. This is going to be a really, really good resource for you. So look at all these websites that we're going to be leaving for you. This is the information that you need to see, and it is your responsibility to be looking at this. Now, before I wrap it up with questions, just prepare your questions. I want to tell you what's next. Now, since I think February, we started with these sessions, and we've really appreciated all the sessions that Yandi and Jenny and Elizabeth and myself, with all the guests that we've had, we put together to you for information that we felt that you needed to know to get ready. Now, for April and May, we are not going to have these weekly meetings for this couple of months. We're going to take a rest on our weekly meetings as a whole group. We will resume the meetings in May, now with sessions on the application process. And we're going to be looking at how to write essays, how to look for more advice on how to look for schools, how to start preparing for tests and all this. We're going to have sessions from May till probably September. We're going to keep with sessions. But during these 2 months, April and May, we have homework for you, right? We have homework for you. Each one of you, you have an advisor assigned. Some of you are with me, some of you are with Jenny, some of you are with Elizabeth, and some of you are with Yanti. So you are going to meet with your advisor. If you want to meet each week and they are available, go ahead and do it. If they tell you there's going to be every 2 weeks, but at least you need to meet with them 2 times, because you need to review and start doing your application plan for the coming months. Remember that Liz gave you homework, right? There's homework that you need to be doing. If you were behind in some of those homeworks, this is the time for you to catch up on that homework from the Google Classroom, right? So that's what we're going to be doing during this time. And also the other thing that is that you're going to start working on your research of schools, right? Remember, like I said, and earlier in this session, one of the most important things in this process is looking for schools, and that takes time. I've had sessions with some of my advisors, and they say, "Oh yeah, I have one school, and I look for it, and I look for the school." And I was there for 30 minutes, and I said, 30 minutes? You have to be in that website at least for 3 or 4 hours in order and take notes and take information and put it in your spreadsheet and doing all that. It is you who need to take the control over this process. So yeah, you have a lot of homework, and I see Elizabeth's hand, so I'm going to give her also the time. And Liz, if you have any reminders, suggestions, or what you want to share with us.
Yes, fantastic. Just to let the girls, well, this is a reminder for all girls, remember
I
that.
think, Liz, that we're not really, I don't know if it's only me, or can you guys hear Liz okay, or is it only me?
No. Okay. I'm gonna change my microphone.
All right. While we wait for Liz, do you guys have any questions? Are there any questions from the audience?
Is it better now?
Yes, much better.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I was saying that as a reminder to all of our students, girls, remember that our last 2 speakers who were also student athletes and who have worked as coaches as well, they offered their help on checking your videos, on checking part of the homework that you're going to be completing during the following weeks. So please check please check Classroom. Yes, because there is a place in Classroom where you'll be receiving some notifications. So we appreciate that after this 2-week holiday, you check classroom at least twice or 3 times a week. So to check that when most of you have already handed in your videos and emails to coaches, etc. So that's the time when we're going to ask these 2 coaches to check your material. So that is why it is important for you to take advantage of time, especially the ones who are going to stay home during the next 1 or 2 week holidays. So to work on this, please, okay? Because once we go back to classes, you go back to classes, you're going to be very busy again. So the intention of this is that you take advantage of your holidays when you're at home, when you have more time to work on this. So it is important for you, for us to remind you this, okay? Awesome, thank you.
Thank you, Lise. Thank you so much for those reminders. All right. Okay, so last chance for questions. All right. Well, with this, we're going to be closing then our first series of webinars for the student athlete cohort. And then, like Lee said, be on the lookout, schedule sessions with your advisor for this time. And then we will resume our weekly sessions on May. We will let you know exactly and give you that information. But in the meantime, meet with your advisor and continue the homework from the Google Classroom. All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone. Have a great rest of your night, and well, we'll see you soon. Have a good night.
Thank you. Good
Thank
night.
you.
Thank you. Bye.